Welcome to the podcast that is designed to fuel your success in selling technology solutions. I'm your host, Josh Lopresto, VP of Sales Engineering at Telecom, and this is Next Level Biz Tech. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm your host, Josh Lopresto, SVP of Sales Engineering at Telecom, and this is the Next Level Biz Tech podcast. So today's extra special, we are actually wrapping up season 1 of the podcast. We've made it through 30 plus episodes. We've had a lot of great stuff, a lot of great content, a lot of amazing guests, and we're wrapping it up today with Paige Clancy from Link121, who is Chief Operating Officer. Paige, thanks for agreeing to do this.
Thanks for having me. And of course, because you asked, I had to say yes.
I love it. We'll take the guilt however it works, but I know you'll do great.
Thank you.
So I want to kick this off with a little bit about you. We're going to get to who Link121 is, but I want to hear about you. How did you get started? Have you always been in this? Did you find your way into this? I'm curious, whatever your path is.
Yeah, definitely. No, I have not always been in this industry, but it's funny. Since I was 3, my dad has been an agent in the channel, and I had really no idea what that was until my mid-20s when I got into the industry. But I was a receptionist and an executive assistant at a real estate development company. From there, I was an executive assistant at a couple tech startups. I learned so much, but I hated having to manage someone else. And I supported the CEO, and I literally had to text her to remind her to shower. I was involved in every component of her life, and it was absolutely draining. So my friend actually worked at West UC, now in Toronto, and she got me an interview there, and that was my first sales role I had ever had. But people had told me I should be in sales for a while, and I had this opportunity, and it's in the LA market, and I loved it. It was my favorite job I'd ever had. Just got to focus on myself. There was so much opportunity. I was so good at booking meetings, and I loved the flexibility, and I loved the opportunity, the potential to earn money. And um, yeah, and my dad was like, "You're in my industry. What?" Like, I sell West, I sell in Toronto, and I was like, "Oh, you do? That's weird." And then I had just then started to understand actually what he did, and then 2 years later, I moved over, started working with him, and now 4.5 years later, and we're partners in the business, and one of the best choices I ever made, except for moving to Utah. That was
Yes,
number one. Yes.
fellow Utah transplant. I love it. So I'm curious, when somebody first said to you, "Hey, you should do sales," what was your gut reaction right away?
I mean, this was since I was young. Like I was always just super persuasive, and I would go around with like something on my head and be like, money for the poor, money for the poor. I was always like, give me your money. And so I think just my personality, I really wouldn't give up. I would just always go after what I wanted. So it felt right. I'm like, yeah, definitely. I just hadn't had the opportunity until it kind of came on my path.
Love it. Let's talk a little bit about Link121. Tell me about the business, how long it's been around, the focus, and kind of anything you want to let everybody know about it.
Yeah. So Link121, you said it right the first time, but then the next 2 times you said Link121, and it happens all the time. And I feel like we need to change the name because it's just such a common mistake. But Sean, my father, named it Link121 as like a play on words. We're linking a customer with a solution. So it's been around since 1993 when I was 3 years old. My dad started this in our kitchen, and the primary focus has been voice and network. That's kind of where the bulk of our business is. But over the last couple of years, we've dabbled a little bit in security and in mobility. We've also started doing our own telecom expense management services. So yeah, that's that's where we are today.
Love it. It's good history. Link121. I got to get this right. I've known you long enough. I should be able to get this right.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
So let's talk about expense management. Because
hmm
the timing on this is funny, right? We're in this weird economic climate. We're seeing a lot of these companies say, our quarterly projections, we're going to drop them again. We're going to drop them again. We're going to drop them again. And we're seeing companies do great, and the stock tank 10, 15, 20, some of these guys are on 50, 60% slides. So I want to, obviously the talk track today is about expense management and some details into that. But for your first iteration, your first run in with expense management, did you know it existed? Well, how did you come into it?
Yeah, expense management in general, I would say Sean, my father, kind of taught me about it. He started seeing the value in building inventories for our customers early on so that they had one place to go to see what services they had per location, what they were spending, contract end dates, all of that. So that's just something he had trained me to keep for our customers so we could support them in managing their expenses. And then we really started to get deeper into it as we started bringing on larger customers with like over 100 locations and really seeing that there is a disconnect between the people ordering the technology and then the people paying the bills. And there's just a lot of wasted money in between. So it's a huge gap that businesses have. And especially, you could have someone really amazing that's managing the expenses and the bills and all of that. And then they could move and go to a different company. And then what do you do? So I think having a system in place is super beneficial.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. I guess when I envisioned what it would be like talking to technology professionals, thinking back 5, 10 years ago, right, of what role I might be in, I kind of envisioned that everybody would have it figured out. They would know what they want, they would know what they need, they would know how to get there. And I mean, you talked about it. Like, I'm kind of curious about that first example of how are your eyes opened with that 100 location customer, right? Was it just like the 1 and 2 location? Like they've lost inventory. They don't know what renews. They don't know what they're paying, who's paying it. Like, break that down for me.
Yeah, well, they actually, the person who was managing all of this for them actually passed away. And
Oh,
yeah, and we had built a great relationship with them, sold them a bunch of circuits, we're just kind of starting to get into other conversations with them. And we just saw that there was an opportunity. And we hadn't done this ourselves for another customer before that point. So we kind of created it then, and that was like 3 years ago now. And it has been huge from them, like huge for them. Like the executive feedback that we've gotten has just been amazing. All they have to do is provide our inventory, and that answers all of the executives' questions. So they're not going around trying to find out pieces of information, and we're managing it on an ongoing basis. So they come to us. It's just given them a ton of value, and they don't need an employee to support it.
so the next question I was going to ask, but I guess this kind of answers it. Of I'm curious how this has helped your relationships evolve with the customers. I see a lot, and maybe this fits into that trend of maybe when a partner starts out with a customer that we're all trying to figure out what our roles are. Everybody's got their guard up a little bit. Who are you? I've got this dialed in. There's ego. There's all this fun stuff. But then you've
Yeah.
evolved to this point where you're going, you can't live without me, and they're going, oh my gosh, I can't live without you. Is that have you seen that evolve in the relationships like that?
Yeah, it's so in the beginning, it's a little bit rocky trying to integrate us with them and find our place. But once we kind of like, work through everything and 6 months in, a year in, and now how integrated we are today, it's just crazy. It's kind of like second nature for all of us. We have our role, they have their role. It's just very clearly defined, and it's not something they have to worry about. We're proactively going to them when they need to renew. Um, they come to us for any disconnects or changes or quoting. It's just we're really a true extension of their team.
I'm curious, as you've gotten into this, are you finding that is there a vertical? Is there a certain type of customer? Is it once you see them over a certain size that you go, oh my gosh, they need this. They're going to be a mess. I just know it. Have you figured out a blueprint for this yet of when you always just bring this up? Or is it everybody?
I mean, I think we'll take every opportunity to bring it up because I do think everyone needs it. And I don't think one vertical more than the other. If you're running a business and and so there's two pieces here, the telecom expense management and the mobility optimization. So which are you kind of wanting to focus more on?
Either of those. I guess let's start with the mobility first.
Okay. So yeah, we just sold our first mobility deal this year with VMOX, who's been incredible. And we knew nothing. We knew nothing about this. We brought in one of your engineers to our call with a customer, and how this actually got on our plate was because we have a weekly call with a customer, and they mentioned that another team is looking for a solution for mobility, and we're like, oh, that's something we can do. We haven't done it before. We didn't tell them that, but we got on a call and they ended up going with a solution that we recommended, which is really a testament to your team because we didn't know anything about this, and it just it was amazing to kind of just sit back and watch it unfold, and us not having to have the technical expertise to really make recommendations. We kind of just let Teleris take the lead.
Love it. Good. I mean, it is. I mean, that, honestly, like that's the goal of what I hope people get out of this podcast. The goal is, this is a multi-session talk track to help people step into areas that they haven't done forever, or if they've been doing one focused area, understand that process and the inner workings and all the different pieces to move into a different area. And I think what the feedback that we've gotten has been that it isn't as tricky as I thought it was, right? And now that I've gone through this once or twice, I got a lot more confidence to go, okay, I know what people are going through, right? And you get that once you get that under your belt, I think it gives you that to move and just go do it again and again.
Yes, definitely. Um, and it was just so amazing for our customer to see all of these unused devices that they weren't using that they were paying for. So to optimize their spend before even signing on with a provider, they got all of this information up front, and it was totally worth it. It was a no-brainer to them, the value that they were getting, and then what they had to pay. They were already going to be saving much more than that. So it just made sense.
So let's talk about, again, back to this weird economic climate, right? As we get to the last couple questions here, what's great about partners, what's inspiring about partners is you're always ready to pivot, right? If it's a digital transformation time that we need to have that conversation, you're doing it. If it's a cost savings time we're ready to have, we need to do it. If it's to optimize and consolidate, I got too many providers. Partners are always ready to have that conversation. I'm curious, where we're talking about this right now. Let's say somebody has been focusing in on selling cloud or selling UC, and they're just head down selling that. And they go, all right, I've listened to this. I've got customers that fit into a framework of this multi-location, multi-product, just disparate, don't have their head wrapped around the bills. What's your what's your advice to start to have that conversation, to even discover an opportunity like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of it I think depends on your relationship, how integrated you are with that customer. And if not, that's totally fine too. But I would just be open and ask, see what they're doing today. Just ask questions like, how are you managing your mobile spend? How many devices do you have? Are you aware if if all of those are being used? Do you know that there's a big potential that you could save money here? Why don't you just send us your bills and we can look at it for you? If you don't want to take the time, just send us over your Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile bills, and we will sift through all of that and come back to you and let you know what is actually going on here if you don't have someone that's managing that for you.
Great point. And at that, they're probably going, yeah, if you want to take these bills and go through them, sure. I don't have the time to do it. So anything you do after that is gold, I would think, in their eyes.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I've found a lot of luck in that and across all verticals. Like, just send me your bill, let me see what you're doing and come back to you with my advice, my
Yeah,
thoughts based on what you have today.
fair. And I think it's going to get more prolific and not less. I think we're in an interesting shift here, right? Where 4G, starts to take a step back to 5G, and so then we have does 5G start to become more prevalent with unlimited data plans? Do people start, putting some of those kind of access points in to supplement, primary internet, or does that become? It's going to be interesting, I think, from a mobility perspective, as all of these folks are looking to cut costs or add resiliency. So it's getting more common, I would say, definitely not less.
Definitely. And with remote workers and, people not in the office, like the devices that each company has, I would assume is growing. I mean, in our customer that we just did this with, they had over 900 smartphones, tablets, computers. So it's if you don't have a solution to manage it for you, it's things are going to get lost. Things are going to go through the cracks. You're going to be spending more money than you need to.
Yeah, and I forget the rule, right? If you get to 100, a couple hundred devices, people tend to think, okay, now I need an FTE to hire this and manage this, right? And to your point, I would say, no, you don't. Let us help with that. We can do it cheaper. We can do it more efficiently, and we could probably do it better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like with this VMOX deal that we sold, the cost that VMOX was charging to manage this ongoingly was significantly less than what they were saving. So I just got to think it's always going to be worth it from a cost perspective as well.
Especially, I mean, that rings true as people are looking for ways to get efficiency, right? To get more out of a single dollar right now, to stretch that, hit profits, all of that good stuff. I think this is perfect timing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, final thoughts, I guess, as we wrap this up. Any other things that you would add for partners that aren't comfortable, or any thoughts of what you've seen of where you think this space is going at all, or anybody to look out what people should be looking out for?
Oh, I think this service is going to continue to be a player in the space and grow more. I mean, that's just where we're headed. And um, if you're uncomfortable, I mean, if you're, we're all uncomfortable talking about something new, something we don't feel like we know about or we don't know perfectly. Um, but lean into that discomfort. That's where the growth is. You're not going to learn about it. You're not going to sell something new. You're not going to grow your business unless you're really leaning into those things. And Teleris has just been like the most invaluable resource for us when it comes to that. And that's where we lean when we're uncomfortable. So if you're scared to bring it up, but you have a call with your client, ask Teleris to get involved. Bring them on the call. Have one of the engineers ask all the discovery questions. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Set up the call. That's enough.
Love it. And I'm still convinced that is the hardest part. I think that our job is easy. Talking about wrapping this up, talking about the Utah transplant, both of us moving here. I door knocked and I sold vacuums. And I do not want to ever have to set up appointments again. So yeah, we'll take the technical stuff. You guys set up the appointments, we'll rock it. Yeah, you have the hard
Yes.
job here.
Oh no, I like that deal. And so yeah, we're salespeople. You guys are the technical people. It's a perfect partnership. So we're each what each other need. It's great.
Love it. All right, Paige. I appreciate you being on with us today. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing, talking expense management.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking. I'm honored. It was great to see you and connect with you again.
All right, everybody. That wraps us up. Paige Clancy, Link121. And that concludes season 1 of the Next Level BizTech podcast. Stay tuned for next season, number 2, drop soon. Until then, thanks, everybody.
Next Level BizTech has been a production of Teleris Studio 19. Please visit Teleris.com for more information.